Welcome to Doing Philosophy. I'm Alan McPhee, here for another segment of our Love Talk series, where we try to find the philosophical meaning of love. Philosophical meaning. Is there such a thing? Philosophical meaning of love. Yes, there is such a thing. I think there is. I hope. So, love, philosophically speaking. Remember, this is an exercise in reasoning where we learn to reason using a topic that's not so controversial. At least I don't think it's controversial. But I do have to say, right now, it seems like it's controversial because today's topic really is about the pleasures of life. It's a continuation of another lecture I had on the feelings. And as I looked at this area, it seemed controversial. In what sense is it controversial? The feelings on the surface seem, as we mentioned before, they're subtle vibrations that we experience directly. And that's okay to talk of them like that. But then as we dug a little deeper, so if you hadn't seen this video on the feelings where I talked about these discussions, please click somewhere over here. You can go into that playlist and you're gonna find that video. What are the feelings? But as I engaged in that conversation, I ran into a little challenge. And one of the challenges dealt with right here when we talked about the emotions and that they're so good emotions and bad emotions, both had good feelings, and that feelings were really a super category, that all emotions are types of feelings, but not all feelings are emotions. So I try to draw the distinction of certain feelings which are not emotions, which are the pain and pleasures of life. And when I ended, it was a little bit controversial for me, at least. I felt a little bit, oh my gosh, where am I going to? This seemed like a little too far. But I must continue. I must finish this. In terms of philosophy, when you think about the kind of things we talk about, the meaning of life, does God exist? You know, quantum world, quantum mechanics, the philosophy of science. I like the philosophy of science, philosophy of mathematics. So talk about the emotion seems so out there, so complicated. And that's what I'm feeling right now, that this is complicated, but it's not, it's complicated, but it's really a lot more sensitive. Like the pleasures of life. What are the things that gives us pleasure? These things cause positive feelings. I can also look at things that give us pain, right? So food gives us pleasure, but there are certain food that gives us pain. It's unpleasant for us to eat certain food. And now it is a preference. I may like cheesecake, you may not like cheesecake. But the question, does it produce pleasure in you're tasting it, or does it produce pain in when you're tasting it? Liking or not liking a preference is not the same as whether or not that food causes pleasure or is pleasant or unpleasant. So we like different genres of food, but there's some differences. Music is the same. Music is an um, external trigger to our pleasures. It strikes upon our ears. And some music I like, and some music I don't like. But is the music or any type of music I don't like, are those unpleasant? Well, actually, sometimes it is. You don't like certain things, like, oh, why am I listening to this? Right? Because of the human sense of preference involved there, the question of whether it's pleasing or not may be challenging. But if you step back, everyone, if you leave out the specific preference of people, everyone accept music as being pleasant. Some people might be very religious and think religious music are the pleasant or preferred music. Dancing is a pleasant activity. Again, it's an external triggered thing from the outside. We observe someone dancing, boom, we like it. And I mentioned sex. When I got into the area of sex, it became more, am I crossing some kind of line? But if you look at the pleasures of life, that is one of the biggest pleasures of life. And when I'm talking about love, ultimately people are going towards this word sex, right? Love is an emotion. Sexual pleasures are pleasures. They are different species. They're closely related because you can have sex because of love. You love that person, that's why you have sex with them. But then you can also have sex without being in love with the person. You might just like the person. And also, not every sexual encounter is pleasurable. Some sexual encounters are not pleasurable, right? So, but in general, we see it as pleasurable and people see it that way. This puts me on the edge of like, oh, what's going on here? Because it's very, very subjective. But the common, if we're going to do philosophy, we got to see the general understanding. The general understanding that all of these external factors cause pleasure. Yes, there are situations where they don't cause a particular individual pleasure, or we don't find pleasure in those things right now. Some people don't like listening to music. And then it goes a little deeper. As I see myself as a person in the world who experiences emotions, I also see myself a person who experiences the pleasures of food, music, dancing. Okay. I also have to notice something else. There is a pleasure to the body itself, and that is more deep and more controversial. This is where I want to go right now. I say pleasures of life. You may like the way your eyes look. I don't know if I like the way my eyes look. What do you think? Right? Other people looking at your eyes will derive pleasure from looking at your eyes. But I'm looking at something else right now. When we look at each other, we derive pleasure from each other. All right. And so when you're looking at her eyes, she's looking at his eyes, there may be pleasure there. But let's not look at externally. What about the person who owns the eyes? You might like the way your eyes are, the way they feel. And this is what I'm talking about. There's a certain type of pleasure that seems to be intrinsic to who you are, the kind of body you have. You may like the way you smile. Now, I could say I like the way I smile. I smile too much, maybe sometimes, but I like my smile. That's it's a. I'll try to contain it as I do this lecture. All right. But others may look at externally and experience your smile like you're in the theater or something like that. That's okay too. But right now we're looking at going deeper philosophically and say that the person or you yourself, you have certain pleasures that are not triggered from the outside, but are intrinsic to who you are, physically who you are. You may like your shape, or you may not like your shape. Some people don't like their smile. Some people do not like their eyes. They think their eyes are unpleasant, ugly. They think their smiles are horrible. People think that of themselves. Shape, we may like our shape. A happy person like their shape. So you may not like your shape. You may think you're too tall, too short, too big, too skinny. There's so many, our society traumatizes us about our particular shape, especially women. Men too, if the young man, your shape matters as well. The older ones tend to think it doesn't matter anymore. In the overall experience of your body, do you like your body as it is? Whether it's big or tall, short, you're black or white or Asian, you're Middle Eastern, you're Indian. Do you like the body itself? Okay. Do you like your body? And mentioning that is so controversial. People seem to have body preferences. Okay, you may have body preferences, but I'm talking about philosophically. How do you feel about your body? Has enough people around the world make you feel uncomfortable about your body? Is your body unpleasant or is it pleasant in general? Like if you're suffering some kind of medical pain and no one outside can tell, but you're actually suffering, although you're smiling, all right, then you're not in a good situation right now. You need to exercise, diet, or get an operation of some sort. The body causes these intrinsic pain and pleasure. So remember the definition of feeling I gave, a subtle a subtle vibration that can be experienced. According to science, the whole body is a subtle vibration. You have organ, but you have cells and tissues which are in constant subtly moving around. So it is given the way science understands the body, it follows with necessity that if your consciousness allows yourself to experience your body, it will have its own intrinsic pleasure or its own intrinsic pain, independent of how people try to make you feel about yourself. This is the point I was going to, and it seemed as if my little talk on emotion had become very, very personal, and I hope I'm not insulting anyone, all these other things, all right? So what am I saying? This idea of the feelings takes us way into the body and all these pleasures and pains that's involved. And still, we have the emotions in there. The emotions are associated with the mind. And here's the difference. On the left side of the screen, you get things that come from the external world and causes you to have these kind of pleasant, unpleasant feelings. But on the other side of the screen, there, the right side, you have your own body, your own physical makeup, which can cause you intrinsic pleasure or pain. Like, if you ever had a toothache, I've had toothache. Oh my gosh, the pain of the toothache, all right? No one out there is hurting you, but that pain, where is the dentist? I need the dentist now, not tomorrow. I need it now. Where's the dentist? So when you look at it like that, you're carrying a physical system with you, which is intrinsically pleasant or unpleasant. If you accept the understanding of science, you can't see cells here. If you believe there are cells, I hope you do, then you understand they're in motion. Your organs are in motion. Your whole system are constantly vibrating. So it has an intrinsic pleasure or pain there that perhaps we don't experience consciously, but unconsciously it is still there. And so when we move to the second part of pleasure and pain, these internal, intrinsic type of pleasure and pain, it gets closer to what we want to call the emotions. Because remember, I describe the pleasure and pain, the feelings as transient. The only way these bodily physical pleasures are transient is in how we age. When we get older, all of these begin to fall apart, or we get disease. We die. Don't say it. I didn't say it out loud. We die. No, we pass on. So it is transient in the sense our lives are transient. Certainly transient as we age, and transient as we get diseases along the way and we get sicknesses along the way, right? So in that sense, we see the transiency, but that sense of transiency is your entire lives, right? So therefore, there may be some small confusion, I would say, between how I had defined an emotion and how I define these things called feelings, right? Some confusion that I cannot make completely go away. But I can say this, I do feel a little more comfortable talking about the body pains and pleasures now. I don't feel as controversial. I think talking about the body deteriorating over time, especially as you age on and on, allow me to feel more comfortable. And the word feelings being what it is, it captures all the experience of the body, but also captures the experience of the external world as well. And then on top of that, it deals with the emotions. But in the emotions, it doesn't differentiate between them. Good emotion, bad emotions, the feelings both feel good, so therefore they both can drive you into activities. So I think that is it for today. I just need to come in and put that in, plug this a little more deeper understanding of the pleasures of life. And I want you now, hello, okay? If you're feeling, I don't know if the word feeling is correct, but if you are understanding what's going on, it would be great if you're understanding what's going on, at least it'd be great if you would comment below what you think about this. I felt a little, I don't know, like in the free will problem. You have free will, you don't have free will, determinism. But when you're looking at pleasures, and pleasures is something a lot of people pursue in life, and I'm trying to whittle it down to understand it, and all the social judgment we have along these ideas, it's very challenging. I would say it's very, very challenging. So we've come to the end. I hope that we've understood the pleasures, the feelings enough to actually allow us to think more clearly about love and the rest of the emotions. Because now that we've introduced this idea that that good emotions and bad emotions both feel good, we have work ahead for us. All right. So until next time. But before you go, please click, join my site, click the like button, and I'll talk to you next. Take care. Bye.